So this is Naveen Tuli with Major Lindsay in Africa, in Delhi. Delighted to be joined by Naseeb Abou-Khalil of Nokia Corporation, the Chief Legal Officer, who's currently in Dubai, but split your time between Dubai and Finland. Naseeb, welcome, and it's really great to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Naveen. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today.
So, Naseeb, we'll dive straight in. You've lived and worked in numerous countries, from Canada to Holland to Qatar and Dubai and Finland, and you're now running a global legal function for Nokia. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Where are you from, and how did you get to where you are today?
Great question. So I was born in Lebanon, and like many of my country people, I was born during the civil war there. So my life and the life of my parents was quite complicated because of the situation the country was in. That's what led us to immigrate to Canada, and that's when I took control and charge of my life, because I found a level of freedom and opportunities that I didn't think that I would have in Lebanon. I embarked on my academic journey, and I studied political sciences, then I studied law, I studied civil law, then I studied common law, then I did a master's in international trade law. And when I immigrated to Canada, is an interesting fact. I didn't speak any English, actually. I spoke only French and Arabic, and I had some basic knowledge of English. I could put maybe one or two sentences together at the most. So I decided to learn English because I started looking for a job, and I realized very quickly, even to looking for, a normal job as a selling, being a salesperson behind a desk at a night shop, or upgrading later to a tour guide in a museum, you required both languages. So coming from a place of a need, I learned English. And then I studied in both French and English, and I remember very clearly, distinctly, during my study curriculum, I was always focused on approaching studying as a platform that will give me opportunities. And so I always wanted to have opportunities rather than create opportunities for myself, rather than limit my opportunities. And that's why I thought, okay, well, Canada has a dual system. I'm fluent in French. I studied in French. I studied the civil code. But the world is more than Canada. And actually, Canada is more than civil code and the civil law system. So I decided to study the common law system, and I qualified in Ontario. And this really continued throughout my career, making choices that I felt would prepare me to be more adaptable, more knowledgeable, more versatile, create opportunities for me, and bring more value to the corporation where I'm working with the breadth of my experience, rather than from a specialist perspective.
And it's fascinating that you were able to take up English at such a relatively late age.
Well, it wasn't so late. I was 18 years old. So
You're speaking to somebody who speaks only one language, so take that under advisement.
I was 18, and it was interesting how I learned English, because it's another anecdote. I was working in a night shop, and I was robbed a couple of times. The first time at knife point, and the second time they came with guns. And so the owner of the night shop decided to find a person to sit with me and keep me company, so that I don't feel so scared. And the lady who sat with me spoke only English. So she taught me English. I'll be forever grateful to her.
Literally grateful for your life. Gosh.
Yes.
And did you always want to be a lawyer? When did that seed get sown?
I can't really say that I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I think that I've recognized in myself some traits, my deep attachment to reading, my deep love for reading, my deep love for analysis, my deep love for argumentation. I was at the University of Ottawa studying political sciences, and I did 1 year of theater. And then I put in 2 applications, one for theater school and one for law school, and they both came positive. And I had to decide, do I become an actor, a stage director, or a lawyer? And then I decided that I wanted to become a lawyer because I wanted to make my own lines. I didn't want anybody to write the lines for me. But I still wanted to be theatrical as a lawyer, and sometimes I am.
So you chose that career to go down the legal path. So you kicked off in private practice in Canada.
That's correct, yes. And then life took me to the Netherlands, and then I worked in the Netherlands. My relationship took me to the Netherlands, and then I worked in the Netherlands for a few years. And you know, I always aspired to come back to the Middle East. That was always a dream of mine, that actually I would be able to use my education, my skills, and all of my language skills. You know, at a certain time in my life, I was very keen on being able to use Arabic as a skill and as a and really bring value leveraging my languages. And that's when I thought, why not try, you know, this place that they call the United Arab Emirates and see what happens. And I don't know if I applied for jobs or I got contacted for jobs. I don't remember anymore. But anyway, circumstances led that I was offered a position at Etisalat in Abu Dhabi. And I decided to take it. And I think it was one of the best decisions in my life. It's been a rewarding experience since then. The Middle East and the United Arab Emirates and Qatar at a certain point offered me opportunities and offered me experiences and knowledge that I'm very grateful for.
And Etisalat was, I guess, your first step into the telecoms world.
Yes, Etisalat was my first step into the telecoms, and what a step. I mean, it was a fantastic, fantastic time. I had beginner's luck. When I stepped into Etisalat, my role in Etisalat, this was the time when in the United Arab Emirates, we were seeing the entry of a new operator to the market. And so I got immediately knee-deep into discussions with the telecommunications regulatory authorities on things that were very new to me, like mobile number portability, like site access sharing, like you know, a number of purely regulatory telecommunications issues. And because the team was very small, I had to take on quite a bit of responsibilities very early on and learn. So it was a very steep learning curve and very, very, you know, a great responsibility. And that was fantastic. So that was this element, the regulatory aspect element. And then we were negotiating with the new entrant, that became the second operator in the UAE, the interconnect agreement. And that's when I met one of my peers in the industry, Annalise Reinhold, who is still somebody that I consider a friend and a colleague, because we've known each other for I think 15 years since we've negotiated that interconnect agreement. And then Etisalat at the time was going international, so I had the opportunity to work and negotiate their telecommunications license in Egypt. I spent a very long time in Cairo with the negotiations team, negotiating with the regulatory authority there, and then leading to the signing of that license and the setup of Etisalat Egypt. So it's been that time at Etisalat was truly a fantastically rewarding experience.
Yeah, great first experience on the ground in the UAE, and then you continued working for other large multinationals
Yes.
from Dubai, well, from the UAE. So was it GE you moved to next, or?
Yes, that's right. And so remember what I said earlier, I always wanted to build up a broad profile for myself.
Hmm.
And so at the time when I was at Etisalat, I thought this is a fantastic experience. But then I introspected and I thought, am I ready at this stage in my career to specialize in regulatory telecommunications? And it was truly a subject matter choice more than anything else. And I felt that I wasn't ready to specialize in regulatory telecommunications and that I wanted to broaden my experience to other industries, to be more, for my experience to be more broadly regional and more broadly commercial and corporate, with everything that comes in between from labor and employment to other issues. And so I met another person that I am very fortunate to have met as part of the interviewing process at GE, and that's my former boss at Nokia, Maria Barcelona. She was my first boss at GE, and she recruited me there. I started working in Abu Dhabi, and then I moved to Doha. And working with Maria was very rewarding because I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot of my ways of communicating, managing my team. My leadership is actually inspired by Maria, but also she gave me a lot of opportunities in the sense that I was never bored. Quite to the contrary, maybe I was too entertained. I started with the Middle East, and then I got Africa, and then I got India. So all of a sudden, the geographical area that I was covering was much broader than what I started. And those were extremely valuable experiences, if I think about them, because they allowed me to truly broaden my knowledge and deepen my knowledge in areas that I had no experience in. And that was very, very valuable for me.
That's great. I obviously know the connection with Maria that you've had from Nokia, but it never clicks with me that you'd actually met before and she'd hired you into GE several years before. That's
Yes,
great. It's a long-standing relationship. And
absolutely.
you then further broadened your experience by moving into a sort of public policy, public affairs, excuse me, a public affairs type role with Yahoo.
That's right. So initially with Yahoo, I was hired as their first general counsel for the Middle East and Africa. They had just acquired a local company, and they gave me the mandate to help shape the culture of that company. And it was truly the first, I would say, very broad general counsel type of role, because really it wasn't anymore just about providing legal advice, but it was about bringing two cultures together. Here's a homegrown Middle Eastern company that became part of a large multinational with a great focus on compliance, on trade compliance, on matters that weren't even considered. A company that never had a legal team before, that really went to outside counsel on a case-by-case basis, a very ad hoc way. All of a sudden, they have a legal team. And how do they utilize the legal team? What value do we bring with them for them? So that was the first part of the job. And then once we have established that, let's say, framework and built the foundation, then my role again expanded and I started covering public policy, working on things like the aftermath of the Do Not Follow Me decision in Spain from a privacy perspective, but also, as you know, a global company like Yahoo managing a huge amount of personal data had a certain approach of dealing with law enforcement requests. So part of my job was also to work on our approach in that specific market in the Middle East and Africa, and to influence legislators and regulators on how to work with us on law enforcement, but also on freedom of expression and media law as well. So again, a truly complete change from what I was doing before, from oil and gas infrastructure equipment to internet and internet in the Middle East and public policy in the Middle East. So another, I would say, brick as I'm building that wall of experience over the years.
And that takes us up, well, to around 7 years ago when you made the move to your current employer, so Nokia. But not, I mean, obviously, you didn't join Nokia at that stage as the chief legal officer.
No, I did not. I started at Nokia having a team of 5 people, and I was covering the Middle East and Africa region. Similar to my role at Yahoo, I would say, but broader in scope and responsibility in some ways, given the difference in the size of the operations of the company. Slowly, the team, well, slowly, no, rapidly, I shall say, the team grew as we have merged 2 parts of the organization together. And then after 6 months, I was managing 20 people. And then a few months later, Nokia announced the acquisition of Alcatel-Lucent. And I was asked to lead the integration of the compliance program of both companies in order to create a new compliance program for the combined company. So I spent a lot of time comparing policies, code of conduct, approaches, evaluating risks, looking at various markets where we overlapped and various markets where we didn't overlap, looking at the history of the investigations process, and various other things, together with a team that I was blessed of having of highly skilled experts. And we actually developed a new program for Nokia that was launched on day 1 post closing of the acquisition. And that meant that my job as integration leader for the compliance program ended, but a new chapter started, and I interviewed and was successful in getting the head of legal for customer operations at the time. What that meant is that I was leading a team of a few hundred people globally, spread around the world, and working on making sure that we had a uniform approach, helping with all sorts of issues in over 100 jurisdictions, but also working on synergies and making sure that the team reached the level of productivity and efficiency that matched with the new company. And I did that for approximately 3 years until Maria decided to leave Nokia. And at that time, I decided to raise my hand and say, hey, why not consider me for the position? And we are where we are.
Yep, congratulations. And it's been around 2 years now since you've been in the CLO role?
Not yet. It's been, I think in August it will be 2 years. In August, I would have completed 2 years as CLO of Nokia.
And can you tell us a little bit about what that means in terms of the size of the team and the remit of your responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, the team is quite lean, I would say, for an organization of our size and given the breadth of issues that we cover. We are a team of slightly over, close to 300, but under 300 people. We have specialists and we have generalists in the team. We are organized and mapped against the way the business is organized, but also we cover a wide geographical spread. So my main role is really to inspire this team and to learn from them and to work with them and empower them to be the best legal team that Nokia could ever have. the spectrums of issues that I get to listen to, weigh in on, work with the team together on is very broad. No day is like the other. Honestly, it's borderline impossible to say everything that we cover. But what is truly key is the way we work together. We have a very, at least I try to abolish hierarchy in any way, shape, or form, so that we have direct lines of communications across the organization regardless of reporting lines, that we work collaboratively, that we work collegiately, that we treat each other with respect, and that we focus on the three strategic pillars that we identified for ourselves in Nokia's legal and compliance team. The first one being a partner for sustainable business. The second one focusing on innovation and digitization, and the third one focusing on equity, inclusion, and diversity. So everything we do and all the work we do has at its foundation these three strategic pillars.
I see. I mean, that's fascinating. And how, you know, now that you've been in this role for coming up to 2 years, you know, you call it lean, but it's still a sizable legal department, and it's obviously spread around the world. How did the team cope? How have you managed to maintain morale during the past year as the world went into lockdown?
By creating a sense of community, honestly. And it's not something that I did on my own. That's something that we all did. We came together as a team, supported each other, and helped each other, listened to each other, and shared with each other. When, you know, the pandemic started, I would say over a year ago, we decided to double the number of calls we had, and we changed the format. We would alternate one call where we focus on business and one call where we focus on the team and shared experiences. I shared my experience about how I lived the pandemic, my separation from my partner, my family, and then other people in the team started sharing, and all of a sudden, people were reaching out to each other, supporting each other, speaking to each other, listening to each other, so creating that sense of community. And then, as a leader, I felt that I had a bit of extra time on my hands because I wasn't traveling as much as I did. So I took the opportunity to have a 15-minute check-in with each and every member of my team around the world. It took approximately 2 weeks to speak to everybody, but that gave me a direct line of communication with every person and helped shattered the barriers and established a rapport. And we continued the same way. And we had the pandemic, then we had a lot of change in the organization. At Nokia, we have a new leadership team, we have a new CEO, we have a new mode of operations. We just announced a new strategy, a new purpose, new essentials. So a lot of new things. And this cohesiveness, this ability to challenge, but listen and respect has really helped us get through that time together and still remain focused, effective, impactful, but also happy. I mean, for me, it's very important to be happy. We spend a lot of time of our life in our jobs. My team, the legal team at Nokia is truly committed to what they do. You can see the drive and the energy to always bring value and excel and go beyond their day-to-day tasks. So it's important that they feel happy in the environment. So creating that atmosphere of collegiality, of fearlessness, of collaboration was truly essential. And we did it together as a team. It's not just me. Me alone, I cannot influence that many people. But when the team assembles around a common purpose, and shares common sense of values, and this is when the culture sinks in and gets it established, and we see clear results in the organization.
Yeah, and I've certainly spoken to a number of general counsel during the pandemic, and they found, a lot of them have felt that they've developed much closer relationships with their team around the world than they did when they were traveling around the world, because of the insights they've gained into the private lives of individuals that they may not have reached out to as often, or just because of time constraints.
Yes, absolutely. It gave a broader reach. Let's put it this way. At the same time, I do miss my business trips where I could have a dinner with the team and spend some, time just enjoying each other's company and being together and learning. For me, what I really miss is, discovering the cultures in the countries that I travel to, and that dimension is irreplaceable. So there was definitely an opportunity, and it was incumbent on us leaders to seize it. And I think those who wanted were able to. At the same time, I feel that we're missing something, and that's the fact that we cannot be together in the same room, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But it'll come back. And the important thing is that we use this time to the best we can, and instead of lamenting of the situation, try to turn it into something positive and build bridges and build relationships, so that next time we meet, we'll be even closer than we were before.
Yeah, very, very well said, Naseeb. And so when you look back over your career, what was there any sort of piece of a nugget, a piece of career advice from someone that you received that really struck a chord with you?
I've received a lot of career advice. When I think about my career, I think it's a combination of two things. A lot of people inspired me because of the way they have worked alongside me, or the way they have been my managers, and I've learned a lot from observing them. But I think one of the most important things that I've learned in my career is the importance of treating people fairly and with respect. That's to me the key for success in leadership roles, and I've learned it very early on from experiencing situations and observing formidable leaders that I had the chance to work for and with, and learning how they manage difficult situations.
Out of interest, were those people that were those individuals lawyers, or were they people on the business side?
Both. I had the fortune in my career to meet people that were extremely inspiring, both with a legal background and with a business background.
Yeah. And you've done a lot of interesting things as your career has progressed. Is there any one accomplishment that you're most proud of?
I don't know if there's one that I'm very proud of. It's hard to say precisely, but I think that something that I'm very proud of right now, rather than looking at the spectrum of things that I've done in my career, is the work that I'm doing on equity, inclusion, and diversity, more particularly being an out leader and putting true effort and energy in making the workplace more inclusive for the LGBT plus community. That for me is something that I don't know if it's pride, but it puts a smile on my face when I think about this work.
Yeah, I was looking on the company website. This is something that you sort of spearhead within Nokia, and clearly something you're very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I partner with Equal, our LGBT plus employee resource group, and together with them, we started an Out Leaders program 2 years ago. I was the only and first out leader at Nokia. And a year later, we broadened the program, and now we have 14 people that are part of the Out Leaders program, and we provide them with development opportunities through Out Forums, which are webinars where they can hear from inspiring leaders from various companies, and mentorship opportunities, and they can work on projects to influence the culture of the company.
Yeah.
That's not something that was done by a specific department. That was something that we did, me and my colleagues at Equal, in addition to our day job, because we felt that it was important to do something to continue the journey of the company on equity, inclusion, and diversity from a multitude of perspectives and for a multitude of people, but also for the LGBT plus community.
Yeah, it's very admirable, very impressive. And you spoke earlier about the sort of building blocks that you've put in place for your career. Is there, if you think about people moving into law now, or moving in-house and aspiring to a general counsel position as their career progresses, is there some advice you'd give, or something that you've personally developed yourself to reach the position that you're now in?
One thing I would say that is essential: learn. Every day, learn. Never stop learning.
Wise words. Okay. And then looking ahead, as hopefully we start moving out of this pandemic and things start returning to normal, what do you see as the challenges, whether for yourself as the general counsel or for your function? One or two challenges that you see in 2021 or beyond?
Well, I think that the pandemic has, whether we realize it or not, has truly changed things. And we have adapted to a way of living and a way of working that has become, to some extent, home-based and sedentary. So I see the reverse adaptation as a potential challenge. We need to relearn to manage our life and manage our work-life balance and focus on our work and deliver the output that is expected from us in a world that's going to be different from the world we've been living in for the past year. And I wonder what this is going to look like. So I think this is going to be one of the areas where lawyers and others are going to have to put a lot of effort in adapting. But as a chief legal officer, not necessarily a challenge, but I would see the role of the lawyer, the chief legal officer, the legal counsel in influencing the culture of the organization, in playing a big part in ESG matters, in being a voice, and it's not just a seat, but a voice at the table on these ESG matters as something that's going to be growing and that will need greater focus. And I don't think it's something that comes always naturally, and I don't think it's something that is always easy to achieve, but I think that's something that we as a legal community should focus on. We need to acknowledge and recognize that we are in very privileged positions in corporations, particularly in-house, I would say, because I need to distinguish between people working in law firms and in-house, but particularly in-house, we are in a very privileged position. We are trusted by the organization. We have access to a lot of information. We see a lot of things, and we can bring value, leveraging everything that we know and truly influencing the ESG approach and policies of organizations.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's very, very interesting. And obviously, I agree, it's going to be a challenge for General Counsel moving forward. And just a few closing questions I wanted to ask you, Naseeb, on a slightly more light-hearted. Is there something that we don't know, or people generally don't know about you, that they'd be surprised to find out?
Oh gosh, these are two difficult questions. I mean, I'm extremely open and I share a lot about myself. So people know me very well generally. And every time I get asked this question, I sit and I start scratching my head, like, what am I going to tell them that they don't know? And it's very, very hard. I mean, you can see from my environment that I'm very passionate about art and contemporary art. I think people who know me know that I'm very passionate about opera and classical music, that I love hiking in the Alps, I love the mountains, I love winter, I love summer. I don't know. What do people not know about me?
Well, transparency is a great thing, as you say.
Well, perhaps I am so transparent that I've left no room for imagination or mystery in my life.
The final question, Naseeb, to ask you is, and I suspect I might know the answer to this, but if you weren't a General Counsel now, what else do you think you would have been?
Probably, if I would have an alternative career path, I would say a mediator.
So I was suspecting you were going to go back to when you hit that crossroads as a student,
No,
being an actor and a stage director. Okay.
No, I would have great difficulty divorcing from the legal profession, honestly, and I call it a divorce because to me it feels almost like a marriage made in heaven, and so and that makes me remember something that I may be able to answer you on what I'm fed up with. I'll get to that. It just triggered a thought in my mind, but I would be a mediator potentially, because it requires a lot of human interpersonal skills. It's always with the view of achieving a constructive outcome, resolving issues, bringing people together. I think if I weren't a general chief legal officer or commercial lawyer, that's the area that I would want to explore.
Interesting. And what was the thought that was triggered?
Yeah, the thought that was triggered is, what I find sometimes frustrating is giving all the credit and recognition to the work that my team does. I sometimes find that when you have a legal team that is so close to the business and so engaged to the business, their contributions are almost indistinguishable from the contributions of the business people working for the same outcome. And I feel that sometimes, and that's been historical, the lawyers get a lot of recognition, but I feel they could get more recognition, and I would like them to get more recognition.
Well, that's a very positive note on which to end the interview. Naseeb, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been great to have this little window into your world. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. It's been great talking to you.